Ruslan Kogan's parents arrived in Australia in 1989 with just $90 in their pockets. He grew up in a housing commission flats in the suburbs of Melbourne and learned from a very young age that he had to work hard for everything that he wanted. From his parents' garage 6 years ago, he started Kogan, which has gone on to become Australia's only multinational consumer electronics brand, set to record $150 million in sales alone in 2012. Kogan had one day last month where he sold over $1 million in a single day. I will repeat that. For those of you who don't think $1 million is a lot of money, he sold over $1 million in a single day. 6 years on, it remains one of Australia's fastest growing companies. Ruslan Kogan is Australia's richest person under the age of 30, and it's all self-made. Before we bring him to the stage, check out the screens.
Well, it all started in my parents' garage. I had no money at all, and I started an online business, kogan.com.au.
But Ruslan Kogan is making enemies with the big retailers.
The more competition there is, the consumer's going to benefit.
They're a whole lot cheaper.
The LED TV price war has started, and we're ready.
He's built his business empire online. He joins us now, Ruslan.
Gen Y, what do you think?
I think that the way that we communicate is changing.
A customer's going to go for it.
The whole Kogan business is all about giving customers exactly what they want.
How is it that you're able to undercut your competitors by so much?
Virgin Galactic sending people out into space. It's a business that I respect, and it's what Kogan does. It's innovating in a new marketplace.
G'day. How many people in here have heard of Kogan? There's a few hands, about 50%. And put your hand up if you're a Kogan customer. Oh, about 10%. All right, you guys just got a marketing manager fired. How do you feel about that, huh? For those that don't know about Kogan, we're a consumer electronics business. We manufacture LED TVs, tablets, LCD TVs, and sell them direct to the public using an online business model. The business started with $0 startup capital, and we've managed to, with $0 in the bank on day one, compete with companies like Samsung, LG, Sony, Harvey Norman, and JB Hi-Fi. Goliaths not only globally, but also in Australia. In 2010, we expanded to the UK and became Australia's only multinational consumer electronics brand. We are now doing more revenue in one day than we did in all of our first year. So that pretty much paints the picture of the growth story. In this year, 2012, we're set to do over 250 million revenue, so the growth's been pretty good. It's keeping me off the streets. I'm going to talk to you guys today a bit about overcoming obstacles in business and the challenges that you face, how you can overcome them, and give you a bit of advice here and there. The exciting thing in today's business environment is that the biggest obstacles have been overcome for us already. The biggest obstacle in any business is usually the barrier to entry in that industry. With the beautiful thing called the internet, barriers to entry in nearly every single industry around the world have been shattered. If Kogan were to start 20 years ago, I would have needed millions of dollars of financing, stores all over Australia, millions of dollars of stock, and a massive marketing budget. It would not have been possible. I had no money in the bank. So thanks to the internet shattering those barriers to entry, the first obstacle was overcome, and I didn't even have that much to do with it. And we can see the internet shattering the barriers to entry in nearly every single market out there. In the media, for instance. 20 years ago, if you wanted to be a journalist, you'd have to start working in the mailroom of a company. You'd need to, work really hard, work your way up, and one day someone might let you publish an article. These days, you start a blog. If you've got anything interesting to say, all of a sudden you'll have traffic, and traffic means that you can then sell advertising. You've all of a sudden got a business and thousands of people reading your stuff. The same's happened with the TV and news and what YouTube has done to it. It's happened in the music industry. You used to, have to play in pubs and do little gigs all over the place and pray that one day an exec from Sony or Universal will come along, spot you, and then things will go from there. These days, you've got Justin Bieber. So, all industries are changing quite a bit. We've got companies like eBay. You can become a retailer within 5 minutes. Take a photo, write a product description, list it, bam. You're in the world's biggest marketplace with access to millions of customers. So, yeah, look, the first massive barrier to anyone thinking about a business has been overcome. It's never been easier to start a business than now. So I'm going to talk to you about a few of the other obstacles and ways that you can overcome them, because no business is one obstacle. In business, it's obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and it's how you meet those challenges and how you work around them that really counts. Now, I believe that communication is usually a two-way thing, or you'd hope so anyway. So, I'm up here for an hour, don't want to bore you guys, so feel free to tweet at me, at Ruslan Kogan, and I'll even look at the questions and take a few as I talk. If I'm deviating in the wrong direction or you want to know about something else, just let me know, and I'll help you guys out. So, what is an entrepreneur? To me, an entrepreneur or a businessman are two in one. They're an inventor, firstly. So they have to look at the marketplace and say, what can I create that does not currently exist? How can I make things better for the consumer? What can I invent? So they need to come up with this great invention. They need to come up with a change, or something that has a competitive advantage and value to the consumer over what everyone else is doing in the market, whether it be a product or a service. And secondly, an entrepreneur is an athlete. They have to work their ass off to make things happen. And it's a lot of hard work. The biggest misconception out there is that if you become a business owner or own your own business, then you're going to work less than you did in the corporate world. I look back on my days in the corporate world, and that's the least amount of work I ever did. I was alt-tabbing between windows anytime a manager would come by, and I was out of there by 5:30. It's not uncommon to me to grind out an 100-hour week these days. So I went from reporting to one manager to now reporting to over 80 million people in Australia and the UK. So business is a lot of hard work, and that's where the athlete part of it comes into it. I live in the same building as Leighton Hewitt, so I see him in the gym quite often. And the guy just trains and trains and trains. I'll see him in there at 6 a.m. If ever I go to the gym at 6 a.m., I'm out of there at 7, he's still there, going hard. I'll go up, have a coffee, do a few emails, leave the building, he's still at the gym. I come back, he's still at the gym. The guy just goes absolutely nuts. Any person out there who says that athletes are overpaid, that just made me realize that, seeing the way that Leighton Hewitt works, it's a ridiculous claim. Per calorie expended, they are probably the lowest paid people in the world. So in order to be an entrepreneur or a businessman, you need those two characteristics. You need to be an inventor and an athlete. So I'm going to tell you guys a bit about Kogan now, how the business started, and challenges that had to be overcome. Now, Kogan started in 2006, And whenever I used to tell the story about Kogan starting up, I used to start the story in 2006, until I realized that Kogan started well earlier than that. I was at an Entrepreneur Awards recently, and it made me realize that Kogan started in 1989, when my parents, along with me and my little sister, left or fled Russia to move to Australia. And the way that I realized it is because at this Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, there was, a list of all the finalists on the main table. And I took a look at the list, and every single finalist was Russian. And I thought, okay, that's a little bit weird. And, the award ceremony went on. Then, I thought, well, if all the finalists are Russian, there must be a bit of shifty business going on the side. I haven't paid anyone off. There's no chance I'm going to win this thing. And then I ended up winning it, got up on stage, and, they presented the award, and, I told the guy, I'm like, it was pretty funny that all the finalists were Russian, or at least Eastern European from the look of their last name. And the guy said to me, the MC goes, why do you think that is? And I had no idea, so I cracked a bit of a joke, and I was like, I don't know, maybe vodka's got something to do with it. And, people had a bit of a chuckle, and then I got my prize and walked off the stage. A gentleman came up to me after the award ceremony, and he goes to me, are your parents in business? And I was like, no, both my parents are per hour employees. My dad works at a factory, my mum's a nurse. And he goes, do you think you got your business skills from them? I was like, no way, no, my parents came from communist Russia. There's no business skills in Russia. I was telling him about how, my mum we live in Elsternwick in Melbourne, and I don't know how many of you know Elsternwick, but she'd get in the car and drive to Dandenong because fruit and veg at the Dandenong market were cheaper. And, I'd always be saying to her, I'm like, Mum, what are you doing? Just go up the road to the supermarket and buy it there. She's like, it's cheaper in Dandenong. I'm like, what about the opportunity cost? You're spending an hour driving to Dandenong, the cost of the petrol, the value of your time, you're buying the fruit and veg, then you're driving back for an hour back to Elsternwick. It's actually cheaper to buy it from Coles up the street and pay a higher price. But coming from communist Russia where, there's no supply-demand education, it's all about productivity, productivity, productivity. You don't learn about market forces. They wouldn't understand any of these things. My mum would come back from the sales and she'd show me this skirt that she bought. She'd say, oh, look, I saved $100. And I'd be, how? She's like, it was 200 and I got it for 100. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't mean you saved $100. That means you spent $100. And she's like, no, I saved because it was 200. I'm like, Mum, if people were buying the skirts for $200 each, do you think the shop would have discounted them to 100? The value of the product is the level at which a transaction occurs. So just because someone's selling something at a certain price doesn't mean it's worth that price. But, she wouldn't understand any of this stuff. So when this gentleman approached me after the ceremony, I was like, hell no. I did not get my business skills from my parents. And he goes to me, yes, you did. And I was like, how? And he goes, think about what it takes to be an immigrant. You have to drop everything that you've got and everything you've worked for up until a certain time in your life. Take a massive risk, travel into the unknown, and work your ass off for a potential benefit that might not even be there. And it shocked me a bit. I was like, shit, this guy's got a point. I grew up from the age of 5, watching my parents go from job to job to job, each working 3 jobs a day, studying English at the same time, whilst raising 2 kids. And I realized that seeing my parents do all of this gave me the work ethic that it now takes to run Kogan. If I had not been exposed to that from a very early age, chances are Kogan would not be here today. So yes, I didn't learn about market dynamics from my parents, but what I learned from them in terms of what hard work can achieve certainly contributed to where Kogan is today. So that's why when I start the story now, Kogan started in 1989, although we're just celebrating our 6th birthday. So from that young age, I used to, we'd be in the supermarket, and being a normal kid, I'd be like, wanting candy and football cards and all of this sort of stuff. And the answer from my parents was always, no, sorry, we can't afford it. So I realized from a young age that if I wanted stuff, I was going to have to earn it myself. So I've run about 20 businesses since the age of 9. The first business was selling golf balls, for instance. We lived in the Housing Commission projects near a golf course, and I used to walk to the tennis courts there. And each time I'd walk to the tennis courts, there'd be all these golf balls along the fence line that all the golfers just couldn't be bothered picking up. One day I walked into the pro shop on the golf course and saw that secondhand golf balls were being sold for $1 each. I thought, interesting, why have I just been walking past all these golf balls? So from that point forward, each time I walked to tennis, I'd pick up all the golf balls along the fence line that golfers were too lazy to pick up. I'd take them home, wash them, put them in egg cartons, and at the weekend I'd walk onto the golf course and sell them to the golfers for 50 cents a pop. The golfers loved it. They were getting a bargain, and I loved it too. I'd be earning, 10, 20 bucks a weekend. Now, that might not seem as much, it's not too much money, but as a 9-year-old, that made me pimp of the milk bar. So, I was getting a sweet deal. Now, from that point onwards, I had quite a few other businesses. I had a car wash business. My parents would sometimes pay me $5 to go and wash their cars, 2 cars. And, I was happy as to do that until I went past a billboard that said, car wash, $35. I thought, fuck, my parents are ripping me off. So I used the money from the golf balls and went into a hardware store, bought a hose, a chamois, and all the stuff you need to wash cars, and started knocking around in the neighborhood saying, would you like your car washed? $15. All of a sudden, I was booked out every Saturday and Sunday. I got a few mates on board, told them, you guys want to wash cars for $10 a pop? They were like, yeah, sweet. Then I started printing out business cards, dropping them off around the neighborhood, which, called our house phone. I banned my parents from picking up the house phone with their Russian accent and attached an answering machine, because I was at school all day, which is when people were calling mainly, saying, yeah, please leave your name and number and we'll call you back shortly. All of a sudden, I was probably 11 years old at this stage, but we were pumping out about 200 car washes every weekend to the area around us. So I could upgrade from the milk bar to the works at Pizza Hut at that stage, which I'm still carrying a bit of at the moment. So, things were good. And then I went on to things like a mobile phone repair business through high school, then a website design company through high school, and, ventures here and there, always trying to earn some coin. Now, I was always into technology, loved computers, loved gadgets, and I did IT in year 12, finished top of the state, and really loved it. I sent letters around to every single IT company after year 12, and I said, yeah, look, check out my marks, I topped the state, I want to get my foot in the door, willing to do absolutely anything, I'll work for free, I just want to prove myself. Not a single one of them replied. So I thought, sweet, can't let that get me down, went on to uni, and the scholarship I was on at uni allowed me to do a semester abroad. So I looked through the list of places I could go, and University of Miami was on there. So, that just absolutely stood out. Miami was getting mentioned in rap songs and MTV videos, and I thought, this is the perfect place for me to go do a semester. I managed to convince my course director at uni to exchange serious IT subjects for things like golf, scuba diving, and tennis. And I went on to Miami for a semester. And it was an exchange program, which is a bit of a, some dude got rolled, because I was at Monash University on HECS, which costs like $3,000 a year or something crazy like that, whereas University of Miami is at $25,000 a semester school. So some guy was paying $25,000 a semester to go and study at Monash. So, you know, it wasn't quite a fair exchange, but I didn't mind at all. I was at University of Miami. The colleges there are incredible. It's, you know, there's football stadiums and basketball stadiums and swimming centers. It's like your own town. It was absolutely incredible. Plus, being in Miami, it was a party city, palm trees everywhere. It was awesome. So I rock up to Miami. And being an international student, they put all the international students together. And on the first day, we were all like, yep, we need to make this a successful semester. And to have a successful semester, we're going to need a mini bar fridge in our dorm rooms. Thought, sweet. What are we going to do? We're going to go to Walmart and buy one. Why Walmart? Because at uni, all we hear is Walmart, Walmart, Walmart. Economies of scale, mass efficiency, huge buying power. No one can do it like Walmart can do it. They've got the best prices, the best service, blah, 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 blah. We didn't even think about it. Straight to Walmart. So we caught a train, then a bus to Walmart, found our mini bar fridges. There was a gang of like 20 of us, and you know, so we bought like 10 mini bar fridges because it's 2 people per dorm room. And then we had to schlep them back to the train and the bus and get them back to our dorms. So sweet, pulled it off. It was a full day exercise, but at the end of the day, we had a hard-earned thirst, and at least we had somewhere to keep our beer cold. Sweet. The next day, we start talking to the American students, and the American kids spent all of the previous day chilling by the pool, working on their tan. And I thought, far out, I would have, you know, that would have been so much better than what we did. And then we see FedEx drivers rolling in with fridges for all the American kids. And I was like, fuck, that would have made life so much easier. And to rub salt in the wounds, we then go and chat to the American kids. We go chat to the American kids. Not only did they spend the whole day tanning by the pool, chilling, and got a FedEx driver deliver the mini bar fridge, they paid half the price that we did. And that made me realize that an online retailer can operate, a small online retailer can operate with far greater efficiency than a Goliath like Walmart. So I thought, sweet, interesting. And I kept that thought in the back of my head because I had a semester of college to go, and you know, I went on with drinking or studying for a semester, and then got back to Australia. Now, I got back to Australia and I had a few job offers, and I was in a pretty fortunate position because I had done some work experience previously at GE, and I had a pretty unique skill set. It's a CCIE, which is a Certified Cisco Networking Engineer, which is all to do with how computer networks are connected and the internet works and setting up, you know, big computer networks and stuff. So I went to work at GE because they offered me 150K. So as a 21-year-old, I was on 150K at GE on a pretty sweet wicket. At the same time, you know, I was working at GE, but I was bored because I knew the job back to front. The stuff was all really easy for me. Nothing was exciting. Although I was earning 4 times as much as all my mates at the time, but it ain't no fun if your homies can't have none. So, you know, there's nothing really to do with that money. So Accenture came through with a job offer. And Accenture's marketing was awesome. They were sending out brochures with people on laptops, working in parks and stuff, the whole consulting lifestyle. And I used to sit and look at these brochures thinking, that is exactly what I want to be doing. I want to be on a laptop in a park being a consultant. And the only catch was the Accenture job was like 40K a year. So I went and, you know, I had a chat to a few people and mates and my family, and everyone thought I was crazy. I said, like, how could you leave GE to go to Accenture? But every day at GE was an absolute grind. I hated the work there. It's an awesome company doing awesome things, but my particular role was too easy for me, and you know, didn't get me jumping out of bed in the morning. So I resigned from GE and went on to Accenture because I wanted to work in a park on a laptop. Not once at Accenture did I get to work in a park on a laptop. That brochure was an absolute scam. Accenture was the McDonald's of smart people, recruiting people with uni degrees and then getting them to grind it out doing repetitive tasks and process-driven labor. I lasted about 6 months at Accenture. And the final straw happened around the same time that a few other exciting things happened. So I got put on a project with a few other grads, and it was all to do with data migration. There were about 100,000 records to migrate from one system to another. And they divided them up amongst the 10 grads, and we got 10,000 lines each. I took it back to my desk, and they told us, this is going to take you a week. There's a lot of work here. Took it back to my desk, looked at the data, noticed a few patterns in it, wrote a script, had it done by 9:30 a.m. on that Monday. Took it back to my manager, and I told her, I go, look, I've found an easier way to do it. I've written a script that can convert the data really quickly. Would you like me to go show all the other grads how to do it? We don't have to waste a week on this task. She told me, no, there's no way you could have done it. Go back and check your work. There's a week's worth of work there. It can't be complete. I was like, no, please have a look at what I've done. I found an easier and smarter way to approach this problem. Please have a look at it. She wasn't even interested, just sent me back to my desk. So that was one of the most deflating moments in my professional career because it showed me that innovation wasn't valued. I wasn't in a job where I was going to get to use my brain, and nothing was, there isn't any excitement in this role. So I put my head down, walked back to my desk, but then I thought, oh well, shit happens. I had a few eBay stores running at the time, so I thought I'd get to spend 4.5 days on eBay, big deal. Now, around the same time, a few other things happened. So I was looking for an LCD TV, being a bit of a gadget geek and wanting the latest technology. So I went shopping around a few of the big name stores and walked into a few of the stores. And even though I was earning some decent coin at the time, I couldn't afford an LCD TV. So I thought, shit, what am I going to do? Let's see what's coming out of China. Because I was already getting, if you wanted the latest phones and things like that, you had to get them from Hong Kong at the time. So I was already, doing that on a few other things. And I said, all right, well, let's see what you can do. So I did a bit of, Googling and sent a few emails to some big factories that manufacture TVs in Asia along the lines of, hi, I'd like to order 10,000 TVs. Could you please come back to me with, specifications and your best prices? And, a few of them started replying, and, I had a look at the emails and I saw, shit, there's a TV with a Samsung panel using a lot of the core components that the big brands use. I could land in Australia for $1,000, and the big name stores are selling them for $3,000 each. That's a massive gap in the market. And then I thought, dug through an alcohol-clouded brain from Miami and go, oh, I remember a few things from Miami and how online retail works. This is a perfect product for online retail. The best products to sell online are maximum value per cubic centimetre. When you've got $3,000 worth in a small, thin box that's very hard to damage, you've got yourself a perfect online product. So I thought, all right, awesome. Perfect product for online. This would really work. I'm going to make this happen. So I went into Accenture and told my manager, this was on the Wednesday, and I told her, I wanted to be a bit risk averse. So I go, hey, I want to take a bit of personal leave. I've got a few personal issues going on at the moment. Can I have 1 year leave without pay? And she looked at me and said, no way, we don't do 1 year leave without pay. You've only been here for 6 months, blah, 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 blah. No. And then I was like, all right, fine. Well, look, I don't break agreements, I told her, and I've agreed to give you 28 days notice. I'm willing to do the 28 days notice. I want to put in my resignation today. But if you don't want me here for 28 days, if you can lessen that period of time, I'll be happy, for it to be less. And she goes to me, yeah, sure, just finish up today. And I was like, really? I was so valued here. This is awesome. And I was like, all right. So, finished up that day, went home, told my parents what I had done. My mum started crying. She said, you've got a great education, a great job, and now you're going to be a TV salesman? I was like, no, Mum, I've got this idea. Just don't worry about it. It should be all right. And, she was really, really upset. Then I went and told everyone what I was going to do, and I was going to sell TVs online and this and that. Everyone thought I was crazy. So as if someone's going to buy a TV online. And I was like, yeah, but the specs are the same, the panel's the same. Surely if you show people two specs side by side, they'll be like, yeah, I'm pretty much getting the same product. I thought, surely people will Google Kogan review and read about the product. Surely people will buy TVs online. And people are like, no, people want to see a TV first. Then I thought, well, offer them a 7-day money back guarantee, a 7-day money back guarantee. Risk-free purchase, but people were still no one's going to buy TVs online. So I thought, oh well, I've now quit Accenture anyway, I'm going to give this a crack. So, I had to get the business started, and I quit Accenture on that Wednesday and started making the website. Made the website, chosen a supplier out of the emails that I had received, listed all the TVs, and everything was ready to go by the Sunday. There was very little sleep, lots of Red Bulls between that Wednesday and Sunday, but 4 or 5 days later, boom, everything was ready to go. I just had a few challenges to overcome. The first challenge was that when I sent the supplier an email saying, hi, thank you very much for your quote, I like your product, I have chosen your factory to be the factory that I work with, but I don't want to order 10,000 TVs, I want to do a small trial order of 1 container of 80 TVs. They laughed at me. I don't know how many of you have dealt with China, but China is all about mass production. To set up a production line to do 80 TVs is about 10 minutes worth of a production line. A production line takes days to set up with all the right materials and things like that. So it would have been stupid business for them to make 80 TVs. They would have lost money on it. I had no idea about that at the time, but the factory replied to me pretty much laughing at me and saying, Mr. Kogan, you contacted us for 10,000 TVs, not 80 TVs. We're not even willing to do 80 TVs at any price. And I thought, shit, I've now quit Accenture, so I can't really go back there. And this whole business idea I had of selling TVs online now can't happen because I can't actually get these TVs. What am I going to do? And I lost a bit of sleep because I was unemployed with no money now and a website with nothing to sell. So I thought, how do I make this a win-win scenario for the factory? How do I convince them to want to work with me? Because business and all relationships are all about a win-win scenario. And I was thinking, then got the idea. Now, I don't know if you've dealt with China, but there's billion-dollar organizations out there, but all of their marketing material and product brochures and pricing spreadsheets are in Chinglish. Nothing makes sense at all. They'll have images in all different shapes and sizes all over the place. The instructions manuals are missing diagrams, don't make any sense. The pricing spreadsheets will have 12 different fonts with numbers in the center rather than right justified, and 12 different colors, and it's just horrible. So I stayed up for a few days and redid all the marketing material I'd received from this factory. Made it look like a very pretty Western Accenture type document. And made their product brochures awesome, using all the knowledge I'd learnt in marketing and knew about marketing, made the pricing spreadsheets look really professional, made the user manuals make sense. I sent it back to them and I told them, hi, there may not be value in working with me to produce 80 TVs, but there's other ways in which I can add value to this transaction. Please see attached some things I have done for you. Thank you, Ruslan. They replied to me within a few hours saying, thank you, Mr. Kogan. We accept your order of 80 TVs. And they gave me an even better price than we had previously agreed on. Things were back on track. Got over that hurdle by creating a win-win scenario. The factory sent me an email about a week later saying, Mr. Kogan, thank you very much for your efforts. We have just won a massive customer in the US because they said we were by far the most professional factory they had ever worked with. So, look, the factory wasn't going to make money off my order, but they would have made a shitload of money off the US order. So it created a win-win scenario in a situation where Kogan may have never ever started. So, got over that little hurdle. Things were back on track. I had another little hurdle. I had no money in the bank, so I couldn't even pay a deposit payment to the factory. So I had to work out, where am I going to get this money from? Luckily, at around the same time, my parents had just built a new house and my mum was furniture shopping. She asked me to come along with her and look for a dining table. So, you know, I went along, she found a dining table that she liked and, you know, the salesman convinced her to buy it. Then she went to the counter, processed the transaction, paid for the table. The guy was like, yeah, look, it'll be delivered in 45 days. We'll give you a call just before delivery. Mum was like, thank you very much. We walked out of the store. And I go to Mum, I'm like, Mum, you just paid in full for the table. You're not getting it for 45 days. And Mum was like, oh, that's just how it works. And I thought, all right, well, if that's just how it works, then that's just how it works. So I went back to the website I'd made with all the TVs listed on there, put a dispatch date 45 days in advance. My price was ultra competitive. I was selling products that were much cheaper than the big stores. My product was about $1,250. The big stores were about $3,000. Pushed the website to go live. Chatted about the website in a few blogs and forums, ran a few Google ads. All of a sudden, bam, 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 transactions are flowing through. Within a day, I had money to pay a deposit payment to China. Sweet. Go into the bank, do the international transfer, pay the 20% deposit to the Chinese factory. Everything was on track now. The TVs take about 25 days to be made. Shipping takes about 15 days. They were going to be here 40 days later. Customers were expecting them, Customers were expecting them in 45 days. So people were weighing up the offer. They were saying, oh, I've got to wait 45 days. A brand I've never heard of before. Yeah, it's a little bit risky, but this price is, you know, awesome. And they were buying the TVs. Everything was smooth sailing. I started listing the TVs on eBay as well at a 1 cent no reserve auction. So I could control the sales, ensure that I sell out of the full container in the time that I need to sell out of it. And people were like, are you crazy? You're doing 1 cent no reserve auctions for $1,000 TVs. What if they end for 1 cent? And I was like, well, if they end for 1 cent, it means not a single person in Australia was willing to pay 2 cents. They're not going to end for 1 cent. It's like when you go along to a house auction and the auction starts at $500,000 and ends at $673,000. If that auction had started at 1 cent, it'd still end at $673,000. As long as you have 2 people in the market that want that product, it's going to get the natural market price. So the TVs were getting the right prices, I was making profit, they were selling, I could control the rate at which they're selling, and it was generating massive hype as well. Because when you start an auction at 1 cent, it gets thousands of viewers, it gets hundreds of people watching every single auction, and all of a sudden, the interwebs were talking about the Kogan brand. So it was all happening. Sales were going fine, everything was on track, and, you know, looked like I pulled it off at that stage. Based on the rate of sales, I was going to sell out before I needed to make the balance payment to China, and things were sweet. Until one morning I woke up to a few nasty emails from eBay and PayPal. Had an email from eBay saying, "Dear Mr. Kogan, we noticed irregular selling activity on your account. You have sold a high volume of products, not received feedback for a single product. We view your account as high risk. We have disabled your eBay account until you start receiving feedback for these products." So, shit. That was one of my sales avenues was gone. I wasn't sure now if I'd sell out of all the TVs in time, or probably not, because eBay is one of the world's biggest marketplaces and I needed them when I was starting Kogan. The nastier email was from PayPal, along the same lines as the other email, but it was saying, yeah, look, we view your account as high risk, blah, 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 blah. We've frozen all the funds in your account. And I thought, shit, why didn't I withdraw them the day before? So now I had all this money locked up in PayPal, and eBay had frozen my account, and I didn't have enough money to pay the balance payment. I was up shit creek without a paddle. So I needed to work something out. Now, I needed cash. And I thought, where am I going to get cash from? And this was in 2006, the time when every bank would give credit cards to any man and his dog. So I set up my internet browser to auto-fill out credit card applications, because any website you'd go on, there'd be applications for all different types of credit cards. Started clicking, filling out credit card applications. I got I had the art down to a T. I could fill out a credit card application in under 1 minute. Now, so I did all of that and sat there and hoped. Within a week, an unemployed 21-year-old had received about $40,000 worth of credit cards. Sweet. I was still about 20K short though, so I contacted a few mates and said, "Hey guys, I'm in deep shit. Can you help me out and do the same thing?" So a few mates did the same thing. All of a sudden, I had about 60K, perfect amount of money for the balance payment to China, and back to smooth sailing. So, yeah, the time came to pay the balance payment, and I was a little bit scared to pay the balance payment because, there was a lot of risk in this transaction. I needed to mitigate absolutely every single risk. So I hopped on a flight and flew to China. Well, before I'd done that, I walked into a bank, took full cash advances on every single credit card and put it into a bank account from which I could do a transfer. So I hopped on a flight, got to China, got to the Chinese factory. I hand tested every single one of the TVs to make sure they were working properly. And, they worked properly. The factory was shocked because I was signing emails as, founder and CEO of Kogan, and they were like, "The CEO's testing TVs? Like, what's going on here?" So they were a bit shocked, but look, my balls were on the line. I could not afford for anything to go wrong. I owed heaps of banks money, heaps of friends money, I owed heaps of people TVs, and I didn't have a job. So I needed to make sure that this shit worked out. So hand tested every single one of the TVs. Watched the TVs get loaded into the container. Then I jumped in a taxi and made the taxi driver follow the container to the shipping yard. Now, I think I'd watched one too many movies at that stage, because when you have dudes with AKs holding up a container and rubbing the whole thing, I have no idea what I was going to do if that had happened. I had no ninja stars, absolutely nothing. But it gave me peace of mind to sit there in the taxi watching the container get driven to the shipping yard for 2 hours. So I got to the shipping yard, and I watched it get unloaded from the truck, and everything was fine. Jumped on a flight back home, waited the 15 days till the container arrived in Australia, The container arrived and, you know, cracked open the container in the warehouse, sent the TVs out to all the customers. They started leaving feedback on eBay. eBay reopened my account. PayPal released all the funds. I paid back my friends. I paid back the credit cards and made a little bit of profit. What did this all... What did that little bit of profit mean? It meant that the next order wasn't a 45-day pre-sale, it was a 30-day pre-sale. And the order after that wasn't a 30-day pre-sale, it was a 15-day pre-sale. The order after that, we had TVs in the warehouse available for immediate dispatch with 24-hour delivery. Now Kogan's got a 10,000 square meter warehouse, chock-a-block full of TVs, and 50 to 100 containers on the water at any given time without ever taking a single cent of external investment. Thank you. Oh shit, the questions are piling in. All right. Someone loves our vacuum cleaner. It's surprising. I thought it sucks. I want to talk about a few bits of business advice, which hopefully covers off a few of these questions, but then I see time's ticking away here as well. We'll see how we go. I'll try answer as many questions as possible. The most important piece of business advice is always create a win-win scenario. What's not sustainable cannot be sustained. In every single interaction in business, and even in life, your relationships in life must be win-win. And as you can see from the Kogan story, it's looking for that win-win scenario with that order. The redoing the user manuals, that's, you know, largely to thank for Kogan even being here today. So always look for win-win scenarios in business. Win-win between you and your customer, win-win between you and your partners, win-win between you and your suppliers. I sometimes walk into a negotiation in China and they'll tell me, like, you know, they're really trying hard to sell us their stuff, and they'll be like, oh, Mr. Kogan, please accept this order. We're selling to you below cost. If ever they say that, I pack up my shit and walk out the door. And they're so shocked. They're like, why don't you want to buy from us below cost? You know, why are you leaving? We're selling to you below cost. And I'm like, well, you're either stupid or a liar. And I don't want to deal with someone stupid that's not going to be around in 2 weeks. And I don't want to deal with a liar, you know. There's no business deal here. I want all of my suppliers and factories to be making lots of profit, to be growing, to be supporting the business, to be innovating. I need all our business partners to be making profit. I don't want to bone them and have them sell below cost. I'm not interested in that. Every single business interaction has to be a win-win scenario. And thanks. There's lots of ways to create a win-win scenario. I went to Monash Clayton in Melbourne, and it had a shitload of students, but it also had a massive car park. And even though the car park was massive, it was impossible to ever find a parking spot. And the sort of student I am was that I'd rock up to my lecture, you know, a couple of minutes after the lecture had started, and I'd be zooming around the car park looking for a parking spot, and then I'd see one a few aisles away become available, and I'd zoom there. By the time I got there, someone else had taken it, spend a few more minutes looking around for a parking spot, look at my watch, oh, it's 10 minutes into the lecture already, stuff it, I'll go home. So that used to be the usual thing, until I worked out, well, hang on a second, it's really easy to get a parking spot here. What I'd do is I'd pull up to the entrance of the car park, see people walking back to their car, wind down the window, go, hey mate, want a lift to your car? They're always like, yeah, sure, hop in. Give them a lift to their car, they get out, get in their car, pull out, I pull in, boom, done. They save themselves a 200-meter walk. I save myself 15 minutes of insanity. So, you know, win-win situation. So always look for a win-win in everything. The other bit of advice is to think outside the box. Business is all about having a competitive advantage. You can name any successful business out there, and I'll tell you within seconds what their competitive advantage is. If you don't have a competitive advantage, you're just doing the same crap that someone else is doing, and there's no real value coming out of your business. So you've got to think outside the box, whether it be strategy, how you run your company, how you market, how you find your customers, how you create your products, how you sell your products, whatever it is, you have to be doing something different and have a competitive advantage. I can tell you about a couple of competitive advantages with our sourcing. In China, the way that it's all structured and the way that it works, everyone claims to have a factory. When it comes to selling TVs and manufacturing TVs on the scale that Kogan does it at, there's maybe 4 or 5 companies that are the actual factory and the actual manufacturer. So when you get to China, everyone will claim to have a factory, but really each factory's got a few trading companies under it, and probably 5 to 10 trading companies, and each of the 5 to 10 trading companies have about 100 agents working for them, which is why if you look for a TV factory online, you'll find yourself 100,000 factories. If you don't deal with a factory direct, you're dealing with a middleman. If you're dealing with a middleman, then you're paying too much because everyone wants their cut. Now, when I started going to China, I started, looking for different ways to work out if you're dealing with a factory direct, because they'll all claim that you are. There's a few instant giveaways, like, oh shit, like the Chinese on the business card does not match up with the Chinese on the factory wall. And, I can't read Chinese, but I can tell if a few squiggles look the same. So I'd go, no, this isn't the factory. And sometimes you even ask someone on the factory floor, you go, do you know this guy? And they'll be, give you a no, but you don't know whether that was a no because I don't understand you or a no because no, I don't know him. So you need some other things as well. And the one trick that I worked out that works every single time is you go to them, the guy that's giving you a tour of the factory, you say, mate, can you open that door over there? If that guy has to jump on the phone and make about 10 phone calls, wait for 15 minutes for someone to come down with a key to open that door, they do not own that factory. And I'd be straight away, please take me back to my hotel. And you cut out the crap that way by thinking outside the box. Another interesting one was when I was at a big negotiation in China with one of the big factories, these 5 Chinese guys in suits sitting on the other side of the boardroom table, me sitting on my side, only one of them could speak English. We were negotiating pricing and quality control for our latest order. Now, I'd do a bit of talking to the guy who could speak English, then he'd translate in Chinese, and things seemed to be going all right, until each time he'd translate in Chinese, they'd have a giggle amongst themselves, and hee 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 ha ha, and it made me feel really uncomfortable. I was like, shit, have I got something on my face? Is it my shirt? What's going on here? What are they laughing at? I don't really find quality control to be all that funny. I don't find pricing negotiations to be comedy, so what are they laughing at here? And I thought, it'd be awesome if I had a translator next to me. And then I realized, well, hang on a second. If I had a translator next to me, then they probably wouldn't be saying all of this stuff that they're laughing at. And I thought, took out my phone, went voice recorder, put it down on the table. To them it just looked like a phone on the table, but I recorded the entire meeting. Got back to my hotel room, downloaded the MP3 off my phone, uploaded it online, went onto a few of those job sites, and within a couple of hours I had people transcribe the entire meeting for me in English and translate it for me. Sweet. Read through it, all of their strategy, what are they doing with the pricing negotiations, the tactics they're using against me, what price they can do, what's their bottom price, what's their cost price, all of that stuff. I ended up getting that order for a very good price. Got to think outside the box. Another bit of business advice is to be accountable. And once again, this probably isn't just business advice, this is life advice. At school, I was always a brat getting kicked out of classrooms, and the teachers would always complain to my parents, and then my mum would try to get me in trouble, and I'd try and tell my mum that it was the teacher's fault and the teacher's really bad. And my mum used to tell me, there's no such thing as bad teachers, only bad students. I thought she was full of shit, but now I agree with her. And the reason being that we have to be accountable and take responsibility for our own actions. We are responsible individually, as individuals, for our learning, for all of our actions. And, you know, that's how you got to be. When you start work at Kogan, when you go through the interview process, everyone gets told, there is no training at Kogan. There is never, ever any formal training for anyone. If you don't like it, leave. Some people are like, oh no, but I wanted to do courses and this and that. I'm like, sorry, Kogan's not for you. Our belief is, formal training is for people who want to look like they're learning. Hey, look, I got a certificate, Mum, check it out. Google is for people who actually want to learn. There is not a single thing today you cannot Google and find out about. Every single one of our staff members is empowered with Google. We've got accountants doing marketing. We've got lawyers doing finance. We've got people with arts degrees in operations management. There's nothing you can't Google in this day and age and work out how to do. By the time someone's written a formal course, it's old news already. On Google, you can find the answer to any question. You could do open heart surgery tonight off a few video clips. And the clips are out there. I probably wouldn't recommend it. But if you absolutely had to, you could. All their information is out there. Don't wait for someone else to teach you something. Don't wait for someone else to give you an education. Don't make your education someone else's responsibility. It's your responsibility. You're responsible for what you want to learn, for how you want to learn it. Never blame anyone else for something you can't do. And that's the philosophy at Kogan. And part of that accountability means a few things in the culture at Kogan. We reply all to an email when we criticize someone, and we reply all to an email when we praise someone. Some people initially, when they get into that sort of culture, get a bit of a shock, because at previous companies, when a manager's telling someone off, they do it in a one-on-one. Hell no. Be accountable of your work. Be proud of your work. People are sometimes upset going, oh, but you know, you criticized me there and you said what I did wrong, but everyone else was copied on there. And we'd be like, yeah, but why didn't you complain that everyone else was copied on that email when we said, mate, you did a good job? Be accountable with all your work, be proud of all your work, and we say it how it is out there in the open. And that's created a great culture at Kogan. Another bit of advice is, no matter how successful your business or venture becomes, never, ever, ever rest on your laurels. When Charles Darwin spoke about the evolution in general, it applies very well to evolution in business. And he said, it's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. So true. If you look at the Kogan business today, it is completely different to what Kogan was a year ago. We know that the way we do things today is just the best we've come up with today. Every single one of our staff members is taught to swim upstream, go against the grain, challenge the status quo. Our internal philosophy that everyone's got written on their desk, everyone's got on their background, everyone says 100 times a day is, there is always a better way. And we strongly live by that, because the moment you get engulfed in your successes up until a certain point of time, boom, it's all over. A competitor's going to come along and eat you alive. Look at what happened to Kodak. Over 80% market share. owned over 80% of all the film that was used to take photos, owned over 80% of all the paper that photos were printed on. Digital photography came along. Even though they owned a lot of the patents and IP behind it, they said, let's not embrace this stuff. Look at our strong market hold in this market at the moment. What do you know it? A few years later, Canon becomes the major player. They embrace digital photography. They've got massive market share with Nikon now. Kodak's extinct. Never rest on your laurels. We're running out of time, but I'm going to ignore it until someone comes up and tackles me. But I don't know. Hopefully Danny Green's not in the building yet. Can't be him. For anyone specifically online, I want to talk about the importance of social proof. I fly Melbourne to Sydney quite a bit, and the flight that I'm usually on gets into gate number 3 in Melbourne. So I know that when you get into gate number 3, you turn left and then you're at baggage claim and you walk out. You know, it's systematic in my head already how to get off that flight. So I fly back from Sydney to Melbourne a few weeks ago. The plane arrives, I'm talking on the phone, I'm the first one off the plane, and systematically I turn left and I keep walking. I get off the phone, I look up, I'm like, shit, I was at gate 12. The plane got into gate 4 for some reason instead of gate 3, there was a gate change. And I thought, oh damn, got to walk all the way back now. So I turn around to walk back. What do I see? 200 people followed me. Part of me felt a little bit bad, but the other part was, you idiots. Nobody likes to use their own brain. People just do what other people do. And even though that's a phenomenon, you know, psychologically, you need to take advantage of that in business. 6 or so years ago, I saw a craze in remote control helicopters, imported a few containers of them, got prime real estate in a shopping centre to sell them in one of those stalls. Set it all up, had remote control helicopters flying around the place. No one was coming. Lots of people through the shopping centre, no one was buying the remote control helicopters. Shit. I was going to be screwed. A couple of containers of these things, I had thousands of them to push. The price was right, awesome product. Why aren't people buying them? My cousin's school was nearby. He gives me a buzz. He's like, Russ, I heard you got remote control helicopters. I was like, yeah. He's like, can I come down and play with a few mates at lunchtime? I was like, mate, come down. No problems at all. He brings a few mates from his high school to play with the remote control helicopters. They're playing with them. All of a sudden, people swarm to the stand. Sale. They're buy, selling out of them. Thought, sweet. People just wanted to see other people playing with them and buying them. I call my cousin the next day. I'm like, mate, I'll give you $50 every day to bring your mates down and play with the helicopters. Sold out of all of them quicker than expected. The last 2 weeks of the real estate lease for that stand in the stall was left empty. This was the 2 weeks leading into Christmas, the most expensive time. Empty, no one there. So you need to use social proof in your business. And online, if you look at our website, I don't know if it's been working in that browser that we've got there at the moment, but there's a pop-up constantly. Someone from here just bought this. Someone from here just bought this. Online's a lonely place. You've got to let the person know that they're not the only person on that website. Social media is great for this, and a few other tools are as well. But create social proof around your online business. In closing off, why do I do what I do? For one simple reason: personal happiness. That's the only reason I do it, and I absolutely love what I'm doing, and it drives me so much and makes me jump out of bed in the morning. A few people come to me all the time and they're like, you know, they see the numbers in BRW and stuff like that and the news articles, and they come to me and based on that, they're like, Ruslan, you're so successful, congratulations. And I'm a nice guy, so I'll smile and go, oh, thank you. But in my head, I'm going, how the fuck would you know? Success is not a measure that someone else can measure for you. There is only one person in the world who knows what makes you happy, and only one person in the world responsible for making you happy. Make sure you absolutely love what you're doing. Make sure it makes you happy, and that is the most important thing at all. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, you're not going to love it. If you're happy doing what you're doing, you're going to love it and you're going to be bloody awesome at it. So ensure that you love what you're doing and that it makes you happy. Now, this is a financial summit and people are all about making money. The society we live in these days, profit is almost an evil thing. You look at the media these days, you've got our treasurer dissing some of the biggest job creators and entrepreneurs in the country. You look at our TV shows, the businessman is the evil guy sitting in the penthouse smoking a cigar running the pharmaceutical company. There's a bad stigma that comes along with profit. Ignore all of that shit. The pursuit of profit has created some of the wonderful things we have in this world. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit that this theatre was built. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit that this camera was invented. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit this laptop was invented. It's thanks to the pursuit of profit the last medicine you took that made you feel better was invented. Every single product around us, product or service, there is an entrepreneur out there losing sleep thinking, how do I make it better? How do I make this better for the consumer? How do I improve this product? How do I improve this service? So never be ashamed of profit. It creates all of the awesome things we have around us. Now, you know, it's the pursuit of profit that drove Henry Ford to make cars more affordable for all of us. It's the pursuit of profit that drove Richard Branson to make flights more affordable. It's the pursuit of profit that made the late and great Kerry Packer give us one-day cricket. It's the pursuit of profit that made Steve Jobs enable my mum to send an SMS message for the first time ever. She had a Nokia for 6 years. After I got her an iPhone, I was like, do you like it? She was like, yeah, it sends text messages. She couldn't work out how to do it on her Nokia. The pursuit of profit creates amazing things. My final bit of advice, and this is in terms of what I think is the best business advice ever. A lot of people come to me all the time and run their business idea past me, thinking, will it work or not? I run it past two aspects, what's your competitive advantage, what's your value add to the consumer? Most of the time, people don't have a competitive advantage and a value add to the consumer, so I have to break the harsh news to them. Every now and then, someone has an awesome idea, and I tell them, that's awesome, go ahead and do it. And then I'll see them 6 months later, and I'd be like, hey, how's your business going? And they'll look at me and they're like, what business? Everyone's really good at talking about things, but not too many people are that good at doing it. And, I guess in the whole spirit of entrepreneurs being inventors and athletes, it's that athlete bit that, Nike does very well. So when applied to business and entrepreneurism, the best advice I've ever seen is printed on Nike t-shirts. Just do it. Thank you.
Now, you've been answering many questions, so if there's anyone else that has any questions very quickly for Ruslan, there's 2 microphones on the side of the room. Just quickly go to the back of the room if you want to ask some questions, or tweet some more in. We can take a couple of questions. I've been emailed in a few questions, so we might just take a couple more quickly. Or you might have
I've got it on my phone anyway.
Okay, that's fine. So
if you've got a couple, we can kick it off.
A couple that they sent in. One was... where are we? What's the one thing you really look forward to accomplishing this year in your business?
Well, we've got so many things going on at the moment. There's not really one thing, but one of the major challenges for us at the moment is managing all the extreme growth. We've gone from, a year ago being a $20 million business to now a $200 million business, and along with that is the upgrade of a lot of systems, processes, and things like that. So we're working very hard on all of that at the moment. By the way.
Raise your hand if you like growth like that, 20 million to 200 million in a year, from $50 starting a business in your parents' garage. So it's good to see that these examples happen in Australia, and I think you shared a lot, not just about what it took you to financially succeed, but also about being happy as well. Another question come in was, Ruslan, where do you see online stores heading into the future? Would it be more like a partnership with smaller stores or going more just the Amazon model?
Yeah, it's the way that online differs to bricks and mortar. People just think it's a medium difference, selling through a different channel. But it's a competitive advantage difference. The competitive advantage of bricks and mortar is real estate. The competitive advantage of online is sourcing. It's all about where do you get your product from, how do you get your product to your customer. You know, you go into Amazon and they've got millions of products on there. The one single product they try and sell you the most is the Kindle, the product they have exclusive supply of. So you're going to see a lot of online retailers drop off, and the ones that become huge and massive will be the ones with that massive competitive advantage in sourcing, in terms of how they get their products or how they manufacture their products.
Very good. And one final question. Are you on Jerry Harvey's Christmas card list?
Yeah. Hopefully, he's worth quite a few billion, so not a bad person to get a Christmas present from. There's one question off Twitter I want to do. There's asking if, when starting Kogan, you know, how do you get people to trust a brand from day one? Which I guess is a really good question, because, you know, we're competing against Samsung and Sony, who have billions of dollars in marketing to market their brand, but Kogan literally started in my parents' garage. Now, you know, you've got to play the game. Online, you're not about, you know, how much marketing dollars you have. You're all about what you can deliver. When people use Facebook, they don't think this was started by a 23-year-old. Is this dodgy? Is it going to work? Facebook works, so they use it. And it's the same thing online. And, you know, you've got to make sure your website works. You've got to make sure it's pretty. You've got to make sure you're propagating your brand through online channels. And then, you know, I had to play it up a bit in the first few months of Kogan. It was just me working there. I got a 1300 number. And I had that going to my mobile. So I'd be out and I'd be answering the phone all the time. And I'd answer it with different names. You know, thanks for calling Kogan, this is Russell. Thanks for calling Kogan, this is Tim. Thanks for calling Kogan, this is Jeffrey. You know, online in the emails, I was replying to them as chicks. You know, kindest regards, Lucy from Kogan. And it's no one ever complains to a chick. And it gets a bit awkward when you've got customers asking you out on dates and stuff, but yeah, look, you know, you've got to play it up a bit. So 1300 number looks massive. Someone who'd sent us a few emails and made a few phone calls, like, whoa, I can't believe I haven't heard of Kogan yet. I've like dealt with 12 people there already. They must be so big. Whereas just me all the time. So you've got to play it a bit, but at the end, it's all about delivering what you promise.